Welcome to Catalytic Leadership, the podcast designed to help leaders intentionally grow and thrive. Here is your host, author, and leadership and executive coach, Dr. William Attaway.
Hey, it's William, and welcome to today's episode of the Catalytic Leadership Podcast. Each week, we tackle a topic related to the field of leadership. My goal is to ensure that you have actionable steps you can take from each episode to grow in your own leadership. I believe, like Craig Rochelle has said many times, that when a leader gets better, everybody benefits. Your team, your department, your customers, your clients, your spouse, your kids, everybody. Each week, we spotlight leaders from a variety of fields, locations, and organizations. My goal is for you to see that leaders can be catalytic no matter where they are or what they lead. I draw inspiration from the stories and journeys of these leaders, and I hear from many of you that you do too. Let's jump in to today's interview. It is an incredible honor. I'm so excited today to have Jerry Macnamara on the show. Jerry has successfully led award-winning companies in multiple industries: retail, manufacturing, internet, construction, and business services. He has sold products, he has sold services, and over the last 25 years, he has grown companies in B2B and B2C. He says the product doesn't matter. The service doesn't matter. The industry doesn't matter. The channel doesn't matter. Business is widgets, and your business is not different. The only thing that matters is your approach. Jerry, I'm so excited to have you on the show today. Thank you so much for being here.
William, thank you for having me, introducing me to your audience. This is going to be super fun. I've enjoyed the pre-show and our conversation. And so let's get rolling. This is going to be awesome.
Jerry, I would love for you to share some of your story with our listeners, particularly about your journey and development as a leader. How did you get started?
I have always been interested in leadership and how do we get more productivity out of what we're doing? How do we live a good life? My high school senior thesis was, what is success? And it just got me thinking about what it is to live a good life. And for me, leadership was always at the helm of that. I was lucky to be around really good, solid leaders as a young person who created models for me. I didn't necessarily always see myself in that way, William. And there was a seminal moment for me. I was in a U.S. history class, and I was, as a good student, I was sitting in the center of the learning T, so front row center. And Dr. Cognac asked everyone in the class, they said, if we were in battle, who would you follow? And of course, I turned to the person who was on my right, Blair Hopkins, who was the smartest, fastest guy in the class. And I thought, I'm following Blair. And I turned and pointed to him, and everyone started to laugh because everyone was pointing at me. And it was the first moment that I thought to myself, whoa, that was unexpected.
Yeah.
And so that awareness to say people were seeing me differently than perhaps I saw myself, not that I lacked for self-confidence, but that really got me started on that journey. I went to the University of Richmond and went to the leadership school, which was a new concept. It was the first school in the country to confer a degree in leadership studies. And that's just catapulted me through my career. So I've been lucky to be at the senior leadership level at every stage of every company that I've been involved in. And it's just been such a blessing to have people's confidence, to be in a servant mindset of how do you get people to better places. And I continue to be a craftsman on that. And that's really the goal for the second half of my career, is to positively impact 5 million people over the next 5 years through better business. Because as I said to you before, I've never met anyone who shows up and says, you know what, I really want to suck at work today. And yet there are so many people that are ineffective because it's a bad leadership, a lack of clarity in what it is that we're doing and what it is that we're trying to accomplish. So that's kind of been the journey that I've been on. And certainly I have different experiences inside each of those companies, and happy to explore any of them with you.
I would love to hear how you would define leadership, Jerry. I mean, you've got a wide perspective across so many different industries. How would you define leadership?
So for me, defining leadership is having a shared vision. What is the mission we're on? What's the impact collectively that we want to go on together? We got to be really clear about that. The second piece is shared values, which is really the operating system, how we're going to treat each other. When I go home at night and my wife, Rachel, says, hey, did you have a good day? It's about how I felt in the operation of the business. And then we align our actions with that. So our vision, our values, and our actions, that really is what good leadership looks like in galvanizing people into a single place. And by the way, not every mission is for everyone, and that's okay.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes we want to try and stick square pegs into round holes, and that's not the right thing to do. But our job as senior leaders is to clearly articulate, here's the mission we're on, because I don't hire people, I invite them on the mission. Here are the values, here are the agreed upon ways in which we're going to treat each other day in and day out. Okay, that's awesome. And then we have to make sure that we are disciplined in the actions that we take to make sure that everything that we're doing lines up to the North Star, so everyone can feel good about the work that we're doing, and we're unlocking that potential that we have inside of each of our people to be successful.
I love the language you just used. I invite them. I don't hire them. I invite them into the mission. I want to unlock the potential in each one of them. That's a way of talking about the people that are on your team, and a way of teaching leaders about the people that are on their team that is honoring to the people that you lead.
Absolutely.
Not seeing them as a cog in a machine.
If you don't value your people, you shouldn't be a leader. And it's okay. We need people inside organizations that are individual contributors. They would rather sit at their computer, be great at their lane, do their programming, do their accounting, whatever it may be.
Yeah.
Not everyone is built to be a leader. And one of the things that I've learned over time is sometimes the only pathway to promotion inside an organization is to people leadership. And that is a desperate mistake that organizations make, because think about the people who get promoted, William. Who are the people that get promoted? The ones who are great at doing the doing.
That's right.
That does not mean that they are great at leading people. It just means that they're great at their lane.
That's right.
And so we do a poor job as an organization to say, how am I preparing my leaders for the challenge of leadership? And so, there's lots of stats around this, but there was a survey last year where it said the CEOs trust 48% of their C-suite to deliver on the results for the organization. So just stop and think about that.
Wow.
At the highest level of organization, the CEO only believes in 1 out of 2 people on their senior leadership team. Now, you consider the next level of that, the people behind them, we only believe 11% can deliver the results at that level. 85% of organizations believe that they need a leadership program, and yet only 5% of organizations have actually implemented leadership into their organization. So let's just break this down. The senior most leader, the CEO, only believes in 50% of their people. We recognize it's a problem. We know we need to do it, but we're not executing on it. And then we're wondering why we haven't developed the results that we wanted. And I just look at that one. That's a great example of talk about getting in your own way.
Yeah.
That is getting in your own way.
And that is such gold. I hope everybody hears this and is writing this down. That's been my experience too, watching organizations get in their own way. Say, we value this. This is so important to us. But then when it comes time to put feet on the ground, well, we've got these other priorities. Well, we can't really take time out to do that. Wow, that's so good.
It's the day-to-day operations inside businesses. And as I look at my organization, my experience over time, why have I been able to run 5 businesses in 5 different industries? I've never been the technical leader. Never. I didn't need to be the technical leader. I had people who that's what they did. They were the technical leaders.
Yeah.
And when you look at leadership is universal. It's all of my work is done through people. I don't do the doing
That's
anymore.
right.
I resource the doing. I create the opportunities, I put the right resources on them, and I communicate and love my people like no one else. And so that's why you can do this, because when you think about your podcast and what leaders are trying to do across all organizations, all industries, leadership is always the same.
Yeah.
Our work is done through people. And if we don't recognize that, then again, you probably shouldn't be in leadership. And that's not a knock. Just like when I look and invite people on the missions that we're on, if you have a different interest in a different mission, that's fantastic. I want to love you and I want to get you to the right spot and the right place.
Yes.
And so if we can do that and be conscious about it, everyone wins when we do that.
So good. You said a minute ago that you're out to impact 5 million people in 5 years. That's pretty bold. I think that's what Collins would call a BHAG, right? Your big, hairy, audacious goal.
Yep.
What's more important, people or business?
So that's like chicken and egg, right? So I think you always start with people. I have been in experiences where I've sat at private equity tables and venture capitalists with big fat checks in the middle of the table. And, when you speak to, people who are making investments at the highest level of organizations, they will tell you that it's all about the people first. Yes, they like the business idea, but when the world changes, do I have the right person at the helm of the organization to make the right pivot, to solve the right problem, to create clarity inside the organization? And so there's always business problems to be solved, but it's the people that sit underneath of that. And so your people are the ones that do the work.
Yeah.
Business as an entity is something that sits out there. It's a collection of people working towards something together.
Now, I think it's fascinating that in interviewing and coaching and talking to leaders in so many different fields, every catalytic leader that's making a difference that I've talked to answers that question the same way. It's about the people. It's not that you're devaluing the business and what you do there. It's understanding what the most important thing is. Right.
100%. Yeah. And trust me, business results matter.
Yeah.
I don't sit here and say business results don't matter. Otherwise, I wouldn't have gotten onto the Franchise 500 and the Inc. 500. But I've also been in the same places making the best places to work. So you can build a really performance-driven, highly accountable organization while also being a great place and loving your people, because we're so clear on here's where we're going as an organization. Here's how we treat each other. And we do that in a really disciplined way. It becomes so fun. Yeah. And when someone asked me recently, as I say, how are you going to positively impact 5 million people over the next 5 years? And it's through better leadership at the senior levels, because I want to help CEOs create compelling companies that outperform and still make it home for dinner. Yeah. Because that is like the punch in the gut, the success without fulfillment of, man, I've made it to the Inc. 500, but I don't even put my kids to bed. Like, I don't see my kids. Yeah. And it's like, at what cost has all of this come, the success that I'm being paid? And so we have to be super conscious about that approach to making sure that it's your life on your terms. And that's at the center part of everything that we do as a leader.
You mentioned that your businesses have made the Inc. 500, the Franchise 500, best places to work. You've run 5 businesses in 5 different industries while doing that, hitting those milestones, those achievements. How'd you do that?
So 2 things I would tell you. One is I'm a high learner. So I've went into businesses and I may not be the technical leader, but over time, I learned the businesses, because you have to learn the business. Yeah. You have to respect the business in the industry that you're in. Yeah. So one is I'm incredibly curious. I see all your books behind you. Mine are over here, right? Yeah. And so I love learning and being curious. And then the second piece of this is my first value is love your people and treat them as whole people. And when you do that, it's amazing what happens. Everything just falls into place, because not only are we aligned with our vision and our values, but in addition to that, people feel loved, it's an amazing experience. And one of the things that I advise leaders, right now we're in this quiet quitting, which to me is just loafing. That is not a new concept.
Right. Exactly.
and so someone was asking me, they said, how do I stop quiet quitting? I said, really, it's really simple, but this is universal anywhere. And I call it the 4 C's. One is clarity.
Yeah.
So when you go home and your wife asks you, hey, did you have a good day? You better be able to say, I had a great day. Yeah. I have to put out 20 widgets a day and I put 29 widgets out. I know I'm doing a great job. Right. Yeah. So we have to have clarity of how people contribute to the organization. Second is they have to feel challenged by the work that they're doing. Otherwise, guess what? They're going to leave because people want to be challenged by the work that they're doing. The third is they have to be comfortable that they have the tools, time, and training to be successful. And then the fourth piece is they have to feel cared about by their leader. Because if people don't care about their people, then they probably shouldn't be leading, first off. And that's okay. Yeah. Go back to being an individual contributor. And so if you're not asking, hey, William, how are your 2 teenage daughters doing? How's your daughter doing at college? What's that like as a dad having someone in college? That's how you get people. And this is mindset shift. It's not that you ever want people to feel like they work for you. It's not a subservient thing.
Yeah.
But when your people feel the connection to you and they say that I work for William and I'm going to go above and beyond and I'm going to make sure that I deliver on the commitments and I'm going to make sure that project is finished. I might have to stay a little bit late to get that done. When people start to think I work for William, that's when magic happens. It's amazing. You unlock the next level of what is possible. And it's really when you execute on those 4 C's.
That is so practical. And that is something every leader can apply right now. Jerry, thank you for that. So insightful.
My pleasure. My pleasure.
You often say that success without fulfillment is the greatest business ripoff.
Yes.
Why do you say that?
Because I've spoken to hundreds of entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
Because people generally, probably just like you, I work with fast-growing companies. Mm-hmm. Usually they're, the name of my company is called Proven Chaos for a reason.
Yeah.
You've proven there's a marketplace, but you're in chaos because your people, your systems, your process haven't kept up. Yeah. So when I say that, I get to speak with people that feel a little bit out of control. They're out of alignment. And from the outside looking in, they're on the ultimate CEO list. They're on the 40 under 40. They're on the fastest growing company. And everyone's like, oh my God, William, well done. That's amazing. And yet inside, because of the misalignment between the world that they want to create and the world that they are living, they feel hollow. And so how can I complain when we just made the Inc. 500 list? Everyone's going to be like, oh, how could you possibly complain? I'm over here trying to struggle to make ends meet.
Yeah.
And so I think it comes back to a level of conscious intention. And I think the highest way in which you should be living your life is your life on your terms. Get really clear on the impact that you want to make on the world, who you want to serve, what you want to do, be, all of those things, and then go do the work.
Yeah. And
it's when people, that I encounter, I say, well, William, why did you start this business?
Yeah.
And they kind of shrug their shoulders. Like, I don't know. Like they've lost their way in the focus of what it is that should be happening. And so, success without fulfillment. Fulfillment is the highest, in my opinion, it's the highest order of life. It's your life on your terms.
Yeah.
And I just think that is a super critical thing. When I'm working with people, one of the things that I ask them is, what do you want your business to do for you? Because here's what we're constantly told.
Good.
We're constantly told, you have to serve your business. You have to grind. You have to want more. You have to have it now.
Yeah.
And my answer is, no, you don't. But you have to stop and bring conscious intention to your work. I have a client, very successful. One of the things that they said to me was, we're not sure. And so we walked through this process. And they said, you know what? We don't want to be the biggest.
Yeah.
We want to have an operationally excellent, stress-free company where our clients love us. We want to make this amount of money, which was not like this crazy amount of money. We have 3 kids. We want to fund 3 college funds. We want to take 4 vacations, 1 each quarter. Nothing crazy, not like, to the Swiss Alps or anything. Just want to take family time. And those were the things that were really important to them. And over the course of about 18 months, we got their business directly to that point where they were 100% in control. And they said to me, Jerry, we are so grateful. We've never been happier. We've never been more in control of our business. And we've never had more money in our bank account.
Wow.
Doesn't have to be the biggest, the best. It's all about the intention and the impact that you want to make, your life, your terms. We are stuck sitting in societies where they're constantly telling us, I don't know if Joby took this from somewhere else, but our pastor, Joby Martin at 1122, he says, more and now are the words of the devil.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And so I believe that we get sucked into what society tells us. You have to constantly grow. You have to. It's like, only if you want to.
Yeah.
Only if that's for you. And it's okay that you can push away those societal pressures and live your life. Because if you are busy trying to impress other people instead of yourself, you are going to live a life of quiet desperation. And so,
that's so good.
Helping people get to that place of, here's who I am. Here's what I'm all about. My core values, which should align with the company's core values. And here's the impact and the way in which I want to live my life. That's everything to me.
That work harder, do more, hustle culture, grind. I see it all around. And I hear it from so many of the clients that I coach and organizations that I work with. And it's not just one field. It seems like it's every field, even into nonprofit and church world. And it's fascinating to me how this has been so pervasive and how it has impacted so many organizations' DNA, and the leaders are not pushing back on it by and large. I wouldn't say they're embracing it, but they're certainly living it.
So there's a couple things, right? So when you look at the entrepreneur has an economic advantage to watch their people grind more because, they have more productivity. Therefore, I make more money at the top of the organization.
Yeah.
I think if we were clear on what we expected from our people and we were clear on the outputs, we wouldn't be in this trade for time for money.
That's good.
Because I'm unclear on what it is that I need from you.
Yeah.
The default is, William, I need you to put your butt in that seat and you sit there for 40 hours and let's see what happens. And, but if I could do it in 10 hours, would I care? Would I care as an entrepreneur? No, I got the output and the return that I wanted. But greed drives, and I'm a capitalist through and through, right?
Yeah.
But greed drives the whole notion of, if you can do it in 10 hours, what can you do in 40? Right. How do we bring more dollars home? Come on, friends, let's bring more dollars home.
Yeah.
And so I think, the approach that I have tried to take is, what's the fair trade of risk and reward? Not only as an entrepreneur, but also with your employees. So if you have people that are outperforming, they better be making more money than the person next to them who is not outperforming.
Yep.
And I think we missed the mark there. Coming back to your specific question, why does it happen? Because I don't believe that people take the time to get to know themselves, what their own personal values are. Because I don't know if you've ever had this. I know I have. But you did something and you get that pit in your stomach and you're like, man, that's not who I aspire to be as a person.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I missed the mark. Well, guess what? That's going to happen more often if you've never defined, here's who I am as a person, here's who I'm going to show up. And as a leader, we should be making promises to our people to say, here's what you can expect from me. I'm going to create a predictable environment for you to be successful. And if I can eliminate the noise of what was good yesterday is no longer good today, then I think you get it to a place of more success. But I really believe that it comes back to, why do people do it? Because they think everyone else is, because they think it's the right thing to do.
Yeah.
And they don't bring that conscious intention to it.
Yeah.
I mean, I will share this with you. Between every single one of my companies, I have always taken some time off. It's been, at least 6 months. And it was me getting me back to center and making sure that I was ready to go again. Because when I'm leading organizations, it is all in. I think that's the only way you can do it. You can't be half pregnant as a leader. And so be really focused in on the work that you're doing. Yeah. And I promise you, the inputs create the outputs. You're going to get further faster for sure.
Love that. So you're a learner. You've got a teachable spirit is what I talk about. Somebody who's constantly learning, somebody who's constantly seeking to what's a better way to do this, right? How do I make it better? What's a book that has impacted you, a favorite that you would recommend to leaders?
So I used to say everyone should just read The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People from Stephen Covey and How to Win Friends and Influence People from Dale Carnegie. Yeah. I said, if the world just read those 2 books, the world would be a better place. And the book that I now tell people to go read is The Book of Joy. And it's a conversation between the Archbishop Desmond Tutu and the Dalai Lama. And it is a book that I recommend to all people, because it is really focused in on the highest order of what life is all about and bringing conscious intention to it. And so I just find that when people aren't conscious in their approach and the actions that they're taking, they're constantly going to feel disillusioned. And so if you just take the time to recenter yourself, to make sure that you have your own personal vision, your own personal values, do 101 life goals. Yeah. What are the 101 things that you want to do by the time you die? Because I will tell you, for me, I don't mind failing. Yeah. Failing means that I'm trying really crazy stuff. Yeah. Some of them are going to work out and some of them aren't. I'm okay with that. What scares me even more, William, is that I would be on my hospital bed at 75. Yes. And I would be thinking, man, I had opportunities to make an impact and I chose not to do it. Yep. Man, what a mess. What a terrible waste of my time and talent. And that to me is a bigger concern than, hey, I took a swing and I missed. I'm A-okay with that. A-okay. And that's so good. I've spent a lot of time with people at the end of their lives, and I've never once heard anyone say, oh, I wish I had spent more time at the office. Amen. I wish I had hit the KPIs for one more quarter. I wish I had gotten that next recognition or that next award. Yeah. What I hear is regrets. Yes. Exactly what you're describing. And so often relational regrets. Mm-hmm. I wish I had spent more time. I wish I hadn't sacrificed my marriage or my family on the altar of success, however you want to define that. Yeah, that's often what I hear. And we get to avoid that ditch. We can hear those people say those things and learn from that and create a life that doesn't end that way. I had a personal experience where, my mother struggled with addiction, and I did not speak to my mom from the time I was 16 till I was 32. And reunited with her because she was dying of liver failure. She was given a week to live the day after Christmas, and I sobbed like a baby because I hadn't seen her for 16 years. She went on to live 7 months, and she made it to a liver transplant. And then we got another 16 years with her. Wow. And many times we used to call her the ox, William. I've held her hand. She liver transplant, bowel resection, heart attack, lung cancer twice, many skin cancers. I used to joke with her that they were running out of 1942 parts. but I share that with you because reconciling with my mom and forgiveness was one of the greatest gifts that I ever got in my life. And it changed my perspective of relationships and what is important and what things you should focus in on. Which again, my first value is love your people and treat them as whole people. Yeah. If I can pass this way and help leave you in a better spot, then man, I'm going to try my darndest to do it. Yeah. And so, I share that just because sometimes we hold on to things. Yeah. And I say this all the time. If your thoughts, your feelings, or your actions aren't serving you, change them.
Yeah.
It is your responsibility to change them.
Yeah.
And, the other thing that I would share about my mom, you're only ever one half of the relationship.
Mm.
So there were times in my life, we went through rehab with my mom 5 different times. Amazing woman, right? Amazing woman. She wasn't ready
Yeah.
to be the other half of the relationship.
Yeah.
And so getting to a place where she was the other half and she was present and she was my mom instead of Sandy the alcoholic,
Yeah.
was an awesome, awesome experience. I'm so grateful for it. But I do share that because sometimes the high achievers, we hold ourselves to a higher standard.
Yeah.
And yes, we need to take extreme ownership. But you are only one half of the relationship. And so we have to give ourselves some grace along the way. And, inside an organization, I tell people all the time, what is your responsibility? To communicate, to give the why, and to make sure that the 4 C's are taken care of. And if you can do that, again, magically, just everything takes care of itself.
I love that. Every catalytic leader that I've met or talked to is a learner. And you've shared a book that I was not familiar with, and I can't wait to dive into it now.
It's amazing. It is an amazing book.
I'm curious, is there a quote that maybe comes from that book or maybe comes from somewhere else that drives you, that motivates you, that inspires you?
So this is an unfair question. In 3rd grade, someone got me a quote book. And I fell in love with quotes.
Yeah.
Because I thought to myself, wow, I can learn from people throughout the history of the world, the smartest thing that they said.
Yeah.
And so as a young person, I started collecting quotes. And, I used to have a loose leaf binder, and I would write my quotes, handwrite them in there. I think it's interesting when you consider other people's ideas and their impact on you, and making sure that you also are thoughtful in your reflection and what it means to you. And so, yes, we can borrow other people's ideas, but make sure you make them your own. I say that because over time, I have this whole concept of a board of directors.
Yeah.
Right. If board of directors are good enough for Fortune 500 companies, they should be good enough for you personally.
Absolutely.
And so you should have your own board of directors, because when stuff gets hard, you shouldn't look left and look right and be like, oh, I don't know what to do. You should be able to pick up the phone and call William and say, like, man, spiritual leader, super smart guy, great leadership. Hey, I'm struggling with this thing. Can you help me? I think the one that probably sticks out most for me is hope feels the intangible, sees the invisible, and achieves the impossible.
Oh, that's good.
And I just believe in the idea of hope. Hope is the thing that, as we look out, especially as entrepreneurs, you have to start with a hope. I hope that I can solve this problem better and more efficiently than anyone else can. I hope people will see my point of view on the world, and I hope they will come along for the mission. I hope clients will see our value in the marketplace and choose us as their partner to solve their problem. And so for me, everything comes back to the seed of hope. Hope is what drives it all.
Jared, you have been so generous today with your insight, with your wisdom. I think you have helped more leaders than you know with so many different areas. Thank you for your generosity today.
Well, thank you for having me. I believe that we are always better together. And, as I joked with you, I've had my teeth bashed in over time. And I think that the great joy is to, no matter whether you're 2 miles ahead or 2 steps ahead, is to look back and say, hey, William, there's a little pothole right here. And so be careful. Be careful about that pothole. And if we could just continue to do that, wouldn't the world be a better place if we all opened ourselves up to be a little bit vulnerable, to say, I'm not sure, and that's okay? I think we get into these traps where we have to puff our chest out and I know everything. And, coming back to the high achiever stepping into the leader role, a lot of times people trip is because they've always had the right answer.
Yeah.
And then suddenly as a leader, you don't always have the right answer. I have small data sets. I have big gaps. I'm not really sure. My intuition tells me this. And you have to get comfortable to not know. And so to the extent that I can share my perspective, whether it works for someone, whether it's right or wrong, it's been good for me and it's helped me along my journey. But I am happy to share my experiences, and thank you for the opportunity to do it.
You've been sharing with leaders in so many different contexts, and now through this venue, I know people are going to want to stay in touch with you and continue learning from you, Jerry. What's the best way for them to do that?
So the best way, I'm pretty prolific on LinkedIn, so you can find me on LinkedIn under Jerry Macnamara. Other opportunities for fun. If you go to provenchaos.com, since November 2019, so even prior to COVID, I've been doing office hours, and I do it every Thursday from 2 to 3 o'clock Eastern time. It's an opportunity for senior leaders to gather for free. I do it just so that I can see more and more businesses outside of the ones that I serve. But people are able to come together. We just share a win of the week, what's going on, and then people get to say, hey, I have this challenge. Does anyone have a perspective on it? And now, when we started, none of these people knew each other. And now I think there's been about more than 250 people that have come through.
Wow.
Sometimes just for one stop off because, hey, I just had this question and I needed some help. But that's another fun place where if you ever feel alone, which by the way, you do, because I've been a leader too, and I have felt alone, that is a good place for you to just come and visit. And that community is super fun. And the last place to go find me is I have a live show that I run similar to this, where I bring in, thought leaders and award-winning CEOs, because again, we are all better together. And so the name of my show is Best Places to Lead. You can find it at bestplacestolead.com. And we do that Thursday at 3:30 Eastern time every week. And so if anyone wants to come join, I would love to have you come join us and share your insights and your perspective, because again, we're better together.
Love that. Jerry, thank you again. It's been an honor and a blessing to have you on the show.
It has been my pleasure, and thank you for the opportunity.
Thanks for joining me for this episode today. As we wrap up, I have a couple of requests for you. I'd love for you to do two things. First, subscribe to this podcast so you don't miss an episode. And if you find value here, I'd love it if you would rate it and review it. That really does make a difference in helping other people to find this podcast. Second, if you don't have a copy of my newest book, Catalytic Leadership, I'd love to put a copy in your hands. If you go to catalyticleadershipbook.com, you can get a copy for free. Just pay the shipping so I can get it to you, and we'll get one right out. My goal is to put this into the hands of as many leaders as possible. This book captures principles that I've learned in 20 plus years of coaching leaders in the entrepreneurial space, in business, government, nonprofits, education, and the local church. You can always connect with me on LinkedIn to keep up with what I'm learning and thinking about. And if you're ready to take a next step with a coach who can help you to intentionally grow and thrive as a leader, I'd be honored to help you. Just go to catalyticleadership.net to book a call with me. And stay tuned for our next episode next week. Until then, as always, leaders, choose to be catalytic.
Thanks for listening to Catalytic Leadership with Dr. William Attaway. Be sure to subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts so you don't miss the next episode. Want more? Go to catalyticleadership.net.